Minutes for the on-site and then drive.
That's hard to get.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it can be.
You did the job.
I didn't even speed on the highway, although I could have been going 80 and staying with traffic.
Well, no kidding. Oh. Yep. Good.
Good, how are you?
Good. Excuse me? Turner's grows its special farm. They planted. Make sure it's ready for the year. Some years it's not as far along as this year. There's lots of sweet corn.
Crazy.
But the 200 dozen about. Turner's, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I don't know if they irrigated everything or just spot. It's about 200 dozen.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's okay.
well, thank you.
I'm good. Thank you.
Yes, the letters at the very bottom.
Yeah, probably to be further away so I don't go get smart.
We have 15
Maybe I
minutes.
was a hug.
That's what I'm afraid of.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, then we just got that one.
The readers have their comments.
Okay.
Call this meeting to order. This meeting and all of the order open to the public. Robert notes have been posted and given to the media in accordance with Wisconsin statutes. So you may be aware of the time, place, and agenda. Please note the following information. The meeting will be broadcasted with remote access and live stream on your YouTube at different links. Roll call, mileage has been done. Please. Please review the agenda. If there's any changes. No, there's not, and your motion to accept the agenda as written.
Marks and move to accept.
Jeff, your second.
Johnson second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those who disapprove. Do we need to review the minutes from July 17th, 2023 meeting? Are there any changes or additions or subtractions? If none, I hear a motion to accept them as written.
Johnson moves to approve.
I hear a second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those who disapprove. Board meeting and the public hearing considered today, Thursday, August 3rd, 2023, results of the public, which means that anyone present may speak, provided they stand up, identify themselves, and fill out the public notice of public appearance sheets, which is located in a box at the end of the door. Anyone attending via the phone or Zoom meeting may speak, provided they identify themselves by name, address before doing so. We are recording these proceedings, so it's important that you state your name and address before addressing the board. Following hearing has been published as a public Class 2 notice in accordance with the Chapter 985 of Wisconsin statutes and will be heard by this board. Robert and Jane Krueger and the Lembcke family LLC. Within 30 days at the close of this hearing, copies of this decision will be delivered to the appropriate applicant or appellant. With that, I will call this first meeting to order. The purpose of this hearing is to take testimony regarding the application of Robert and Jane Krueger. According to located in a part of the government lot 4, being lot 5 of the government of this subdivision, section 36, town of Fremont, lying along the county road H, fire number N273, Lembcke County, Wisconsin. Tax parcels 06-136-745 for a petition of grant of a variance to construct a dwelling within the required shoreline setbacks on appropriate approximately 0.89 acres or 38,771 square feet. Secretary, please read the names of the people notified of the hearing.
Stephen Stibbs, Town Chair, Nicole Gage, Town Clerk, Daniel Cole, East Side Supervisor, Shirley Yeager, West Side Supervisor, Robert Krueger, applicant, Robert and Jane Krueger, owners, Department of Natural Resources, Dale Rezabeck, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Kyle DeBung, Lembcke County Highway Department, Casey Byersdorf, Lembcke County Corporation Council, Benjamin P. and Kayla J. Bigelbach, Claire Ellie and Ryan Miller, Claire Ellie and Ryan Miller et al., Marlene M. Ort, Irrevocable Income Only Trust, Abby B. and John T. Weisenberger III, and Ward L. and Wendy L. Weiss Revocable Trust.
Does anyone know of anybody named within 300 feet of this property that has not been notified? Secretary?
No. If the variance is approved, any privilege must be exercised within 6 months of the date of this decision by obtaining necessary building, zoning, and other permits for the proposed construction. This construction must be completed within 2 years of the date of issuance for the permit. The County Board of Adjustment is an appellate board required by state law in any county or municipality which has adopted a zoning ordinance. The board is a quasi judicial body whose purpose is to give full and fair hearing to any person whose property interests are directly or adversely affected by the provisions of the zoning ordinance or an interpretation of the ordinance by the local administrative officials. The board does not have the authority to amend or repeal any provision of the zoning ordinance. Its sole purpose and authority is to interpret the ordinance and apply its provisions to the factual evidence presented. The board is interested in hearing all pertinent evidence. Witnesses in favor of the application will be called first. Those opposed second. The persons of interest last. After each witness has testified, he or she may be questioned by the board, the applicant, or the attorney for the applicant, and any other party or the attorney for any party to a hearing. Persons present who are not appearing as witnesses will be allowed to propose relevant questions which the board may pose to a witness. However, the chair reserves the right to rule on relevancy, and no member of the audience will be allowed to give testimony unless they are acknowledged by the chair and they testify in a manner required of other witnesses. Because record of this hearing is tape recorded, it's imperative that each witness or speaker identify himself or herself and his or her interest in the subject matter of the hearing before speaking, and speak in the direction of the tape recorder on the presentation table. The chair may impose a time limit on presentations. However, he does request that you avoid repetition and limit your remarks to the subjects that are being considered. There is no benefit from hearing statements that repeat statements which have already been expressed or that relate to matters other than the case before the board. Personal attacks or abusive, belligerent, badgering, or indecorous testimony, and gross hearsay, rumor, or gossip will be ruled out of order by the chair and subject to immediate appeal to a majority vote of the board.
Board has conducted an on-site inspection of the property. Board will now hear the application of Robert and Jane Krueger. Will Robert and Jane, or Jane, and their agent please come forward and be sworn in and testify. Please raise your right hand. Solemnly swear to tell the truth, the whole truth.
I solemnly swear to tell the truth and the whole truth.
Have a seat. You want to explain your situation?
Yes, sir. So thank you, board, for listening. We had purchased this lot about 2 years ago in hopes to build our dream house on it. And as we went through, we realized that there was a setback. We knew there was a setback 75 feet off the highway. I did some research and knew that the DNR wouldn't approve any closer than 35 feet. And we used that for laying out our house. Afterwards, we realized that there's a 75-foot setback. So really and I'm not sure if we can pull up the zoning map that shows our house. I'm sorry, the plot plan.
It'll be with the application, the site plan.
You're looking for the site plan that you supplied with the application?
Yes. Yes. Actually, there's one that was submitted afterwards. I have a copy here.
The house on this, you scroll
Yeah,
down.
just scroll.
This here?
Yes, thank you. So off the center line, the front of the house is located 75 feet off of the road, which is the minimum requirement for the highway setback. Given the creek that's back there, which is the very bottom line, the 75 feet is the dotted line that goes through there from the high water setback. Because, so you can see that little triangle, this, I think it's almost 0.9 acre lot would be almost unbuildable unless you put a mobile home on it, which would not meet the requirements of the subdivision, or try to design to meet the minimum size of the house for the subdivision, unless you designed like a triangle shaped house, which obviously would not be feasible. When I went through the guidelines for variance application, I went through all the notes, and the third bullet says the legal hardship or difficulty stated as the reason why a variance is necessary must be peculiar to the parcel in question and different from that of other area parcels. As that creek goes back, the rest of the lots, and you can see that by the 75-foot line on the right-hand corner, right there. The rest of the lots have enough setback both from the highway center line and the creek to be able to build a house. Ours does not because of the unique shape of the parcel. In addition to that, so I have three main points. This is a summary of the first one. The elevation of the back of the house is the back corner that is the closest to the creek is about 772 feet. The high water line from 45 feet to it is about 762 feet. So it's about 10 feet. Everybody was out there this morning, remember going on that big slope. I tried to be conservative with that. I think it's closer to 12 feet, but I also think that that helps prevent any impediment with the field drain as it is. So that's my first item that I want to bring up. I'm not sure you want me to bring all three of them up, or should I just start with that one first?
Go ahead.
Okay. For this next one. So the next one talks about the detail of what is a navigable waterway, which requires a setback from the DNR and everything else like that. So I do have a link that I could forward, but per the Wisconsin DNR waterway jurisdiction determinations, this is the definition for a waterway, and then I'll go into some of the details about the field drain. It says a navigable waterway is defined through case law as any waterway that has.
Can you slow down, please?
Yep, I apologize, ma'am. I'm a little nervous. A navigable waterway is determined through case law as any waterway that has a defined bed and bank upon which it is possible to float a canoe or small watercraft on a recurring basis. So I think one of the things on there is recurring basis. If there was a lot of rain, there may be a part that's closer to the tunnel, which is more than 75 feet away from where our house is, that you could float something like that. But for the most part, I don't believe there is. The ordinary high water mark is defined as the point on the bank or shore up to which the presence and action of water is so continuous as to leave a distinct mark either by erosion, destruction of terrestrial vegetation, or other easily recognizable characteristics. I think this morning for everybody that saw that, there was nothing above the bank line. It was right up to the bank. So in my interpretation of that, that's where that line is right on that very edge of that bank. So going into field drains, in accordance to the DNR Wetland Handbook, Chapter 140, page 14, Section 30.10, was changed back in May 7th, 1982. Say that farm drainage ditches, which are not non-navigable streams prior to ditching, were declared to be not navigable. Prior to this change, if a farm drainage ditch could be navigable, it was considered to be navigable. So that section changed to 30.10. In addition, on 30.10, section 4C, it says notwithstanding any other provision of law, farm drainage ditches are not navigable within the means of this section. And this is the point I want to make, unless it is shown that the ditches were navigable streams before ditching. So I think everybody could see there's not a natural water source, and you could walk the whole thing to see it. It's purely a farm drain. And off of that, it says, unless it can be shown that ditches were navigable before streams before ditching. That wouldn't have been the case because there's no water source to flow the stream. So looking at it, I firmly believe that it is a farm ditch, which is not considered a navigable waterway and would not be dictated by the requirements of high water line and navigable water because of that. So I kind of combined two of the things. So those are my main points that I want to bring up. Any questions I can answer?
We need to have you go through the three questions that were asked on your sheet.
Sir.
Mr. Hardship. You can read what you have written.
Okay. Due to the 75-foot highway center line setback and the 75 foot setback from high water line from the field drain on the back of the property, there's a small sliver of the lot that can be used for a house. The space would limit us to basically a mobile home size structure, which would not meet the minimum square foot requirements of the subdivision.
The unique physical limitations of the property.
The property is a wedge shape, which brings the drainage creek of and highway closer together, limiting the build area. The lot is about and at this time I did not have it measured, about 15 foot. After measurements, it's between 10 and 12 feet, higher in elevation than the creek as well.
No harm to the public.
I'm sorry, sir.
No harm to the public.
No harm to the public at all. And like I said, when the lots were subdivided, they were intended to be able to build houses on. And they were divided into 5 lots. And basically with the size of it, it's very difficult to build without a variance.
Any questions from the board?
So this is a man-made ditch, I call it, waterway.
So that is my belief it is, yes. And according to that ordinance that I was talking about, it said, unless it is shown that ditches were navigable streams before ditching, which I don't think that can be shown. As far as I can tell, I've done hundreds of hours of research on this because this is our passion to build our house here, so.
Who determines if it's navigable or not?
The job comes to the county initially. We are in charge of determining navigability. We generally will look at 2 sources on navigability. One is the USGS quad maps. Those are from the 80s
Yeah,
or 1980s, I think. The other being the DNR's website. They have a surface water data viewer that they kind of keep track of navigability and with all of their other permitting and things. So as far as the question, first of all, I think the question of navigability should have come up in prior discussions. That is not I don't believe that this is the place for that conversation. But in our opinion, it is a navigable ditch. Some of the ordinances that were referenced there gets a little confusing because the 75-foot shoreline setback does come from a DNR regulation. It comes from NR 115. However, there is a difference in regulations and what does and does not apply, what may or may not be considered navigable when it comes to things that require different permits. For example, chapter 30 permits, in my experience, they definitely look at navigable, agricultural ditches differently than our ordinance does. Our ordinance, however, refers to navigability, the defined bed and bank, which I think we saw that out at the site. There wasn't a lot of water, but the reoccurring basis only needs to be maybe once a year. So springtime, snow melt, heavy rain events, those types of things. And it is our opinion that it is a navigable ditch. As far as the farm drainage ditch history, that kind of goes out the window under our ordinance if it's considered hydrologically connected to another navigable body of water. I believe it is, that same ditch goes up and eventually connects to the river, if I'm not mistaken. But that is our determination is that it is navigable. We do have a letter that we'll be reading in from the DNR as well, with regard to that.
Any questions?
One additional statement. And I respect everything you're saying, you know, in regards to a variance, and requesting my variance, and per the DNR, the average setback shall not be reduced to less than 35 feet. So, with the 45 feet that I'm asking for, I'm still within the minimum requirements of a variance. per the DNR, I believe, right?
Setback averaging only applies in very unique circumstances. So with setback averaging, and I believe Art had inquired about this on site as well. We have seen it in prior applications. Under the zoning ordinance and NR 115, setback averaging is only applicable where neighbors on both sides and within certain distances of the proposed house have to be within the shoreline setback. We have a vacant lot next door. That basically throws out setback averaging as an option altogether. There isn't anything to average with. There isn't an existing development pattern with no development in that area. Further down, those structures do comply with the shoreline setback. So there's nothing to create that development pattern that isn't meeting a shoreline setback. Is that answer that question?
So if that lot that was next to them, I can't remember the direction, if there was a house on there, then you could use averaging, but because there isn't.
There
'Cause it is
isn't.
for sale.
There isn't a house there. It would have been required to meet a
I
shoreline
see.
setback. So it would have had to have been a lot that was developed prior to there being shoreline regulations, prior to there being shoreline setbacks. So the 35 feet that is referred to in NR 115, that is applicable if setback averaging is applicable. You could reduce that down to as much as 35 feet, no closer than. So it's not within compliance. The 45 feet isn't in compliance. That's why we're here today. There isn't a development pattern to use setback averaging.
And Ryan Miller, who owns the lot next to us, I know that he sent us some information as well, but he is actually planning on building this fall. They're working through the building permit stuff. And you know, kind of as I was going along that line, they're gonna be farther over, you know, like that creek goes a lot farther back,
Yes.
farther gets down, right? So if that was an option where we could do an average, you know, between the two after they build.
There won't really be a reason to average. He will be required to comply with the 75-foot shoreline setback as well.
Yes.
So there won't be anything to help you reduce the number. In our ordinance, both of the neighbors on either side need to be less than the required setback.
In apologize, in my request, one of the things that, you know, it said for the variance has to be unique to that property. I truly believe this is something that's unique to that property with the size of the lots and where that creek is and where the highway is as well. So.
Are there any further testimony in favor of this application? Have to ask this 3 times. Are there any further testimony in favor of this application? Is there any further testimony in favor of this application? If none, is there any testimony in opposition of this application? Is there any testimony in opposition of this application? Time. Is there any testimony in opposition to this application? Is there any additional testimony regarding this application? Is there any additional testimony regarding this application? Third time, is there any additional testimony regarding this application? Are there any letters?
Yes. I have an email from Ryan Miller to Candace Bauer in the Planning and Zoning Office dated Thursday, July 27th, 2023. It says, "Good afternoon, Candace. My name is Ryan Miller, owner of Lot 4 of River Vista subdivision. I just wanted to send a quick email letting you know I have no issues with Bob and Jane Krieger's setback request. Thanks, Ryan Miller." I also have an email that was received August 1st, 2023 by our office. It was an email sent by Bob Krieger to the DNR WMS Public Inquiry. It states, "Good afternoon. My name is Bob Krueger. I have a lot variance meeting with the Lembcke County Zoning Commission on Thursday morning, August 3rd. My lot is in Fremont, Wisconsin, 54914. This is the Google drop pin for my lot location. There is a web address. It states the summary of my variance request is the Lembcke County setback from the high water line in the field of Drainage Creek in the west side of my letter N. The west side of my lot is 75 feet. The DNR setback is 35 feet from the same requirement. My request is a variance approving 45 feet from the northwest corner of my house to the high water line of the creek. After talking with the Wapaka County zoning president, we believe this field drain is not a navigable waterway. This is not on any waterway map we can find online. The field drainage ditch is about 1 foot wide and is almost always dry or mud. On a side note, I also left a voicemail on the DNR waterway voicemail for this request. For reference, our site plan is for the front of my house to be right at the 75 feet from highway center line, and the south side will be at 15 feet from the lot line. Requirements is 10 feet, but I was trying to give a little more room to the lot line. Please let me know if I can help in any way. Having the Wapaka County navigable waterway map would be a big help in our variance meeting. Signed, Bob Krueger. This one number listed. And then I have the response from Kathy Krames from the DNR. It says, Robert, are you asking about the stream shown on the attached aerial photo that determines the western property lines? In Wisconsin, a navigable stream has a defined bed and banks and carries enough water during the springy rainy season to float a canoe or similar watercraft. The creek indicated clearly has a defined bed and banks and likely is navigable. It appears that the stream was determined to be navigable when these lots were created, as the lot lines followed the center line of the creek. This waterway is on DNR and USGS maps as an intermittent stream. We do allow counties to make navigability determinations for shoreline zoning purposes and do not change the county determination. We can assist the county with their determination if there is some difficulty, but it is unlikely that we would step in and reverse this navigability determination. To clarify, DNR does not have any structural setbacks from navigable waterways. Shoreline zoning is handled by the county. Please work with the county on any additional questions about shoreline zoning. Signed, Kathy Krames, Kramasc, with her phone number listed. And then there were some maps attached, which
I do believe this first picture is from the DNR's surface water data viewer. So that'll be the aerial photo. Sorry, the coloring's not great. You can see the blue dashed line that follows the creek. They indicate a dashed line with a intermittent stream. That's how they generally label that. The map below, that is the USGS quads that I was also referring to. And so they have that shown typically with a blue line or a blue dotted line as well. Yeah, just like that.
So is there a culvert under the road in that, if this gets high enough, it goes into the Wolf River? Or
Yes, sir.
there is?
Yes. The culvert is about 4 feet in elevation below the mud area we're looking at today where it was dry back there.
Okay. And it flows that way. It doesn't come in from the Wolf, or it depends.
So it
Goes
flows
out.
Not a blue line is base of the creek, right?
Correct.
The blue line on the outside.
They don't, no, they don't get that specific in showing a difference between the bed and the ordinary high. That's likely going to be a topo line, a topography line would be my guess. It generally matches that 770 that you see to the, yep, to the right there. So I would assume it's a topography line.
That was, I can't hear you. I just wanted to see what this map, but The blue, you said the blue dotted line goes along the river, but that one section where it kind of comes up, it doesn't go that far, it stays down further. You see what I
To
think?
the right side, you're talking about the dotted line that kind of goes to the bottom of the screen, that one?
No, it's up there. It's where their triangle is, you know, how it kind of comes up in here, but the line doesn't follow it. The blue line doesn't, the dotted line doesn't follow up to the creek.
Well, and creeks do meander from time to time. So even in the USGS quad maps, which I think is generally where the surface water data viewer pulled their information, creeks will meander from time to time. And there are also human interactions that can change the location. Not uncommon for something to not follow it exactly.
So this map says Tustin Road. That's actually County Highway H.
Correct.
Here's this way over. this way, right?
Correct, way over to the left. Mhm.
Yeah, good one.
All right, thank you very much. As we've heard, the variance request is for a dwelling with an attached garage and covered porches within the required setback. The applicant was nice and had that staked out for us on the site and provided us with some building plans and a survey. The property is located in the town of Fremont, which does have their own general zoning jurisdiction there. Lembcke County still has sanitary, shoreline, and floodplain jurisdiction over the property. We don't have any floodplain to worry about here. The shoreline obviously is why we're at this request. Sanitary will be dealt with. They'll need to obtain a sanitary permit if they're able to build. And the surrounding properties are used for residential and agricultural purposes. The parcel is approximately 0.89 acres in a triangular shape. The base of the triangle at County Road H is approximately 280 feet long. The height of the triangle as the south lot line is approximately 250 feet long. County Highway H separates the parcel from the Wolf River. However, there is a navigable ditch that runs along the back of the property, which requires the 75-foot shoreline setback. The dwelling is proposed at 45 feet from the ordinary high water mark. So the section and chapter of the county ordinance that pertains is chapter 32, section 6.1, shoreline setbacks. That is what specifies that a 75-foot setback from the ordinary high water mark of any navigable waters to the nearest point of the structure shall be required for all buildings and structures. Section 14.4.3, parent C, that is from technically chapter 34, which is referenced in our shoreline ordinance. That's where the board gets their review criteria and decision-making criteria. The three main ones, obviously, we're going to go into those in depth: necessary hardship, unique property limitations, protection of the public interests. The only other one that I'd really want to point out in this list is number 6. The burden is upon the appellant to prove the need for the variance. So they've provided an application, we've had conversations, and they've indicated that. For the first criteria, a necessary hardship is met for an area variance when complying with the standards of the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the landowner from using the property for a permitted purpose or would be unnecessarily burdensome. So again, we have kind of those two different parts of unnecessary hardship, the A or B, which you guys will see in your decision-making worksheet. A hardship cannot be self-created. An economic or financial hardship is not justification for granting the variance. The fact that developing in compliance with ordinance requirements may cost considerably more, for example, building a 2-story home or an irregularly shaped home, that does not constitute a hardship under this criteria. In all circumstances, a property owner bears the burden of proving that the unnecessary hardship is based upon conditions unique to the property rather than considerations personal to the property owner, and that the unnecessary hardship was not created by the property owner. Staff's comments on this, the applicant refers to a limited footprint for the proposed dwelling based upon setbacks in their application. Utilizing the scale of the submitted site plan, the largest portion of the buildable area is approximately 50 feet by 35 feet, equating to 1,750 square feet for a building footprint. And that's not taking into consideration the irregular portions of the lot that kind of come up to the north or to the west. The square footage of the proposed dwelling can be doubled then by, of course, constructing it as a two-story dwelling. And the applicant refers to a minimum square foot requirement for the dwelling, which shoreline protection ordinance does not have. Based upon conversations with Rebecca Fields, land use code enforcement specialist of the zoning office, who worked with the Kruegers initially on taking in their application. The applicant has indicated that there are covenants which specify additional development standards on the property. So again, minimum house sizes, those are not built into the shoreline zoning ordinance or the general zoning ordinance. Covenants are not regulated by or enforced by county zoning. They are a private legal obligation for property owners. The applicant purchased the property in 2021. However, the protective covenants were recorded on March 25th of 2003. I'm sorry. Though there are standards for one-story dwellings, which require significant living space on the main floor, the covenants do offer a two-story dwelling option requiring a total of 1,800 square feet of living space with a minimum of 1,000 square feet on the first floor. The lot has sufficient area to accommodate a dwelling while meeting the required setbacks. The need to construct a dwelling with 2 stories or with a potentially unique shape is not justification for an unnecessary hardship. The hardship is considered self-created as the covenants were in place at the time the applicant purchased the property. The second criteria, unique property limitations, limitations such as steep slopes, wetlands, shape or size prevent compliance with the ordinance. The property is a wedge shape, which the applicant has stated. And so, the shape of the parcel could be considered unique in comparison to the other lots of the subdivision. However, the lot size and shape shouldn't be considered unique when comparing it to other waterfront properties in the area. The elevation change noted by the applicant between the building site and the creek is contained within the shoreline setback. Got a diagram there if you would scroll down for me, Ryan. So circumstances unique to the individual, such as the desire to have a single-story home instead of a 2-story home, is not justification for meeting this criteria. That steep slope area is basically beyond the building site. We'd have concerns regarding the vegetative buffer area, file locations, just that type of work that would be much closer to the stream if we would permit a variance here. The third criteria, no harm to public interest. So the variance may not harm the variance may not harm the public interest. The board is to look to the ordinance's purpose and intent for guidance. Short-term, long-term, and cumulative impacts on the neighborhood, community, and general public should be considered. Alternative designs and locations on the property should be investigated. Only minimal relief may be granted for the use of property. And the board may impose conditions on development or modify or alter the application to mitigate adverse impacts. The purpose of the shoreline protection ordinance is to promote health, safety, welfare of the public, as well as to protect the public trust in navigable waters. In order to do this, the ordinance was established to, among other things, control building sites, placement of structures and land uses through setting minimum building setbacks from waterways, and preserve shoreline vegetation and natural scenic beauty through preventing shoreline encroachment by structures, controlling shoreline excavation and other earth moving activities, and regulating the use and placement of structures. The shoreline setback is in place to promote and support these purposes of the ordinance, allowing construction of the dwelling within the requested or at the requested 45-foot setback could also have negative impacts on shoreline vegetation on the vegetative buffer, the area within 35 feet of the ordinary high water mark due to equipment movement, storage of spoil piles, etc. The proposed dwelling includes a first floor of 2,159 square feet, a lower level of 1,365 square feet, and an attached garage of 1,249 square feet. When a variance is reviewed, only the minimal relief may be granted for the use of property. A 45-foot shoreline setback for a dwelling with an attached garage, a covered front porch, and a covered back deck would not be considered the minimal relief necessary in order to use the property for residential purposes. Harm to the public interest does exist in that a grant of variance would result in the undermining of the purposes of the ordinance by reducing dimensional standards intended to support the purpose of the ordinance without all variance criteria being met. So it is staff's recommendation and opinion that the variance should be denied due to the three criteria not being met. Any questions?
So when you're talking about the 50 by 35 footprint,
Yes.
that would include the garage then too? They would have to, or is the garage not part of that footprint?
It would have to be a part of that footprint. The garage has to meet the setbacks as well. Yeah.
Okay. So
So
I mean, from a living space equation, if you had a, let's say a 30 by 35 garage, you'd only have 20 by 35 left.
right,
You
and
have to divide that however you.
they would have
feel.
to, right.
Okay.
And that was only given just to show,
Understand.
you know, in an approximate area.
I
This is
just
what
wanted to
we've
make
got to
sure
work
that-
with.
Garage count.
Yep.
What about impervious surface? Is that within that?
Impervious surfaces would need to be looked at. I believe in the letter, it was noted that we would need to review that as part of the application. So, I don't have that information, on me, but the nice thing about impervious surface regulations is they are the most flexible set of regulations. It's a decent sized lot as far as overall square footage. So either meeting the 15% standard or the 30% with mitigation. There's also additionally treated impervious surface options. There's a lot of options with impervious surfaces in order to comply. So
Okay. Move to what?
I would, would just ask the board, if you were building a house on a piece of property that you intended to build, you wouldn't want 2/3 of the first floor to be garage space. And I understand to have a little bit larger. I'm willing to work with whatever I can. If you look at the example that was given up there, it's still over the 75-foot line to even meet that. So basically, the back corner right there in the upper left,
it's not. The shoreline setback takes a short jog there. If we would go back to the survey, I pulled it right from the survey and drew over the top of it. So that meets the setback requirements.
and that meets the 75 foot of the,
Correct. Yep.
the way that dotted line looks, it looks like the blue mark is across on the front, on the right-hand side.
Brian, could you pull up the application again, Matt?
So where it's coming in is that, yep, that spot right there. So that's why it looks like it's going over the top, is because it's meeting that point.
In short, I know I can shrink down the house if we need to. This was our dream design based off of what the requirements I knew. I'd be willing to shrink it a little bit. If there was any variance the board could give in regards to saying, hey, we'll give you to 55 feet or something like that. I can redesign my house. Currently, we have all of our blueprints done, the quotes, and this process was a little bit of a surprise to me, so we're doing the best we can. This is the first house we've built in our life, and it's our dream. But if there's anything that I can get, everybody saw today when they walked down there, and I apologize, I didn't know I had to submit anything ahead of time in regards to the questioning whether it was navigable. I know that when there's some questions out there, there was a comment made that we'd review that here, but whether it was navigable or not, but in short, if there's anything that we can do to get it a little bit more buildable, I think if you see the size of that, really at the end of the top end of where my house is currently laid out, that's about a 20-foot section there from the front to the back of where you can build a house, which is really a double wide manufacturing house. I'm trying to use that. I can't even put an attached garage on that side to be able to pull a vehicle all the way in with the square footage that's required. So I respect Candace's response. But I do believe because of that, it is a unique challenge to this property that doesn't exist with the rest. And I just ask for any variance approval from the board would be grateful, and any additional requirements that I need to do to help prevent runoff or any contamination, if there's extra requirements, I'd be open to any of that to be able to ensure that there's no danger to the waterway at all. I promise I'll do whatever I can.
Are there any questions of the board members?
I guess he brought up an interesting point. There aren't any issues with putting a drain field or they haven't gotten that far, that would affect what we're doing here.
Septic systems get to meet different setback requirements.
Right.
So what's nice about septics is that they can be located
In the right.
within a highway setback, for
Got it.
example.
Ma'am, this one actually has city sewer.
Oh, that's right.
There you
Yes.
go.
So that's right.
End of discussion. Sorry.
We do have to have our own well, but it has city sewer.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
These still proposed. So how big is that area?
50 by 35.
Additional.
Well, we could take a look at your site plans. There's an 11 by 17 page. You could attempt to use that with either a ruler or a piece of paper if you'd like. You should have a larger site plan in with your packets if you wanted to take a look at that, guys. Yes, that one.
I do think that photo that's up there right now shows a good example of. I think it's 0.9 or 0.89 acre lot, something like that. And how small the buildable area is with the dotted line in the center. And that's why I believe that this is something that's unique to this property. Can I state one more thing? I would just ask the board if you were bought this lot and intend to build on it. What your thoughts would be if this would be unnecessary hardship in regards to trying to fit a house on onto that little sliver of land that's left after the setbacks.
Any other questions for the board? And we're looking at your proposed building area, which is 30 by 50, 35 by 50. Right.
Right, and again, that's just an approximate based upon the survey site plan to show, look at this is the big chunk that we do have to work with initially.
So if I'm eyeballing, strictly an eyeball. Take 2/3. Or even a half. Of the distance, which would be 25 feet, right? And extended it, is that north, south, east, or west? North?
Generally north to the larger portion of the triangle. Mhm.
Yes, sir. Straight left is straight north in this picture on the screen.
Well, that would give you another 25, half of them do another 25 by. Almost 25 by 25 area, not 30 or an area that you could build on.
As I believe Mr. Krieger had mentioned that where the house is proposed and comes across that buildable area, I think he had mentioned it was about 20 feet.
This is what you're referring to, right? Again, it's this.
But outside the setbacks.
Or, yeah.
Outside.
Within the building. envelope, I'm sorry.
Actually, looking at my floor plan right now, the front deck is 6 and the first bedroom is 12, so that'd be 18 feet. Actually, looking at that, it's actually before the little bump out, so it would be about 16 feet right there. From where the left-hand line is, in my proposed house, just up from there.
Yeah, I'm not.
Do you see where the
Right there.
proposed well?
Yeah, I
location
see
is?
that area
Yep,
there.
right there. That's
Yeah.
what we're referring to. That, so that would be about 16 feet.
Yeah.
Deep.
Which would not be deep enough for even a garage to bump off to the side of the house.
Any other questions? If they're not, then the board will not deliberate and decide to case without any further testimony or comments. Hear your thoughts. Yeah.
Yes, I mean, looking at the buildable area to build on the home. I mean, I guess it's all in the eye of the beholder. Some people would embrace having a small home and they'd probably be happy to build in that little area. I mean, it's buildable.
Can the property be used for what is intended?
Right.
That's the question we have. Yeah. Very.
Well, I think it's buildable, but it does present hardship.
Mhm.
And it also it's because of the unique property limitations that are on it. You can put a garage up here. It's incredibly small. What's left for first floor. Realize you can put a second floor over the top. All of it. As I'm getting older, I find out that having my living area upstairs doesn't work so good as it used to either.
Doesn't mind either.
So, I mean, and I. You know, I kind of struggle with that. And I struggle with the water rate, I guess, the definition too, but I guess there's not much we can do about that. I would not, looking at it today, we're in a dry period. I even remotely thought that that was a navigable part of water rate. But in the spring, I don't know what it would look like.
Our problem is we can't identify it. It's already been identified for us.
Right. But most, nobody ever really looked at, right? Like we did. So,
I agree.
Yeah, it's just, it's so irregular too, that it's tough to come up with a building that'll fit in there. Isn't much of a creek, but that's their definition. More like drainage ditch, but it is what it is. Yeah, my initial reaction to that, looking over the back, was you just had a slope that went over and bang down, you got a ditch down in the backyard. And it looks like it's been dry for God knows how long. And I didn't go down in the back
There was water.
beyond that.
There was.
There was water,
Was it?
but I didn't put my foot in, but
Could probably drown from.
it wasn't, there wasn't a hell of a lot in.
It was still water too, it wasn't flowing.
Yeah, I didn't see it flowing.
There, but what's there then is there.
So I don't know if the farmers had put tile in there or whatever, even to use that, I mean, because the field on the other side. Kind of wonder how close that is to that water. Many farmers used to tile a lot of things, right? So, but I guess that still makes it navigable or not. Use it as a ditch, drainage.
I still think the property is usable. Yeah, it's a unique piece of triangle that's sitting in there, and then modifications to make it fit. I'm not an architect, nor do I propose to be one. There is possibly some opportunity to jury rig that thing that would make it buildable and meet the requirement. You know, just have to reduce it a little bit in size, and then the option, I don't know, an option of saying we go and put 2 stories on the house, just to manufacture square footage. To make it look good, better, and different. Doesn't work. That fits into the neighborhood. It's out there. It's not strange, or there's nothing unique about it. Other than the fact that those setbacks in there are a little crazy because of a lot of silt. Setbacks. And the waterway in the back end. But if there's a way to redesign the property or redesign the house to make it fit within the area. So be it. The way it is right now. Situation. This is. Can't fill in the ditch.
Yeah. Can we answer the questions? The reason why I didn't, I waved you off, is because you're not allowed to speak. to this. Unnecessary hardship. Compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance provisions within the question. Unreasonable, from using the property. for permitted purpose. These are the questions that we need to answer, yes or no. To be within it. Does it restrict it, prevent the owner from using the property as a permitted purpose?
Well, I think it would be burdensome. I realize I might be able to put something in there, but it would be burdensome for me if I was doing it. So I think there is some hardship there. Shall?
I think that there is a possibility of putting a house there. It's like I said, it's in the eye of the beholder. Some people would embrace the uniqueness of this property and build their dream house. It might not be Robert and James' dream house that they have on here, but I mean, it's possible to build a house on there, and so I think it is. I think it is. It is buildable for a house. I would say no.
It doesn't prevent them from using. the
Right.
property. David?
Yeah, the footprint is small. They can't build what they want. I agree with that. Can put something there.
Who? That's your, excuse me?
Nope. Bill? We'll use the property. For building, subject to modification, I suppose, and that, but it's still, there's no unnecessary hardship. Was
We need to have a motion. Second, no answer for this.
And we can do part A and part B if you'd like. That has generally been the recommendation to go through both. You can do an either or you can do with them both.
Let's see when this thing will have your vote.
Okay.
This is the property. Prevented from using the property as a permitted purpose. Yes or no? Secretary, you want to call the roll?
What's the motion?
Motion is, okay, I'm gonna say, that the property is prevented from being used as a first permitted.
Made that motion. Did Jack make that motion or I did? Oh, you did. I'm sorry.
I have a second.
You're saying it's no, right?
If, can they use it first? Can they use it? Yes or no? Did that answer your question?
No.
So if we're answering letter A,
Right.
You're saying no or yes?
Yes, they can use it for permitted purposes.
No, the question I'm asking, what is your motion? What is your motion?
My motion is to, does the compliance of the restricted letters of the ordinance provision in this question on unnecessary prevent the owner from using the property? Does it prevent them from using the property?
so your answer is, your motion is no, it does not prevent them from using the property for a permitted purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So. Okay.
Does the board understand the
Yeah.
vote?
Art, would it be helpful for you to look at the worksheet? That, I know that's what Michelle is looking at here. The decision-making worksheet, it'll be in your packet, I think at the end. That I think is a little bit where the wording might be
Yeah.
slightly different between the verbiage you've got in your guidelines and the worksheet that everybody else is using. Follow along.
Rid of this tree. Does the compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance provisions in the question, setbacks, heights, and limitations, unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property? Is that better?
Yeah, what's your answer?
What's your yes or no?
That's my.
Right.
That's my motion.
Your motion can't be a question. It has to be, you have to be saying yes or no to that question.
Right.
Is it? Yes or no? Are they in compliance? Are they not?
Staff's recommendation would be no, if we're following that line of thinking.
I think that's what you're
It,
saying.
it does,
right?
okay. So the answer is no, and that's Art's motion. And then we'll take a vote. Oh, and you're seconding that, Jack. Thank you. All right.
So yes, what would be, they are in compliance, no vote. Not it.
Correct. Roll call, Jack?
Hold on a second. We need a motion whether it's yes or no. Who cares about the question? I'm very confused. Because I don't think I know what Art's trying to do, but he's not answering the question.
I believe his answer is no. Does compliance with the strict letter of the ordinance provisions unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose? So he is saying no.
You're saying no, so that's your
Complying.
motion, no. Okay, thank you.
And so technically, a yes for you guys would be agreeing with Art's no. Or if we want to say yay or nay, separate those two, we can. But Jack, I'll take a roll call when you have a moment.
Art. Hey, Richardson. Dave,
Yes.
Ultra, yes. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, we're at the no thing.
You're saying yes to the
That's
no.
You're saying yes to the no.
Yes
You're
or no?
agreeing with the motion of no.
No. All right, Gary,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
and everybody said yes.
Okay, we can hop to number 2 then, if you'd like the unique property limitation. Oh, actually, I apologize. We should probably give some findings, some reasoning for that.
What about B? Are we gonna do B then?
Art you had said do either or. So if you'd like to do both of them, I would encourage you to do so. You're not required to.
Do both.
Okay.
It's conformity with the regulation, unnecessary burdensome. Yes, it would be, and no, it wouldn't be.
And I make a motion that yes, it would be unnecessarily burdensome.
Second. I'll say.
I've got Art down for a second on that.
Yes. Roll call?
People?
Yeah.
There we go. Art,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jack, yes.
Second question, unique physical property limitations. Does this property contain unique physical property limitations such as wetlands presence, parcels, parcel shape, steep slopes, etc. that would prevent the compliance with this ordinance? Yes, it would be. No, it wouldn't. Take a second.
No motion yet.
I make a motion that this property contains unique physical properties, property limitations. They will prevent the compliance of the.
So declare, was that your motion? Art?
That's my motion.
So your motion is that there are unique physical characteristics of the
Yes.
property?
Yes. Yes, there are. No, there aren't. Right, here's. Here's second to the motion.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Can we do a roll call, please?
Art,
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Gary,
Yes.
Jill,
No.
Jack, yes.
Public interest. Granting of this variance results in harm. We agree that this granting this Granting those variances will result in public. Confirming the public interest. Granting this variance would harm, result in harm in the public interest, should be. Yes, if you agree, no, if you don't. I hear a motion, second to the motion.
We need a motion first. Is there public?
So the granting of this result in harming of the public interest. Is that not a motion?
I'm sorry, I heard that as a question. So you are making the motion that it
It does harm.
does harm the public interest.
Your second?
I'll second it.
Seconded. Stream.
Roll call?
Art.
Yes.
Dave.
Yeah.
Gary.
No,
No.
no.
Michelle.
Yes.
Yes. Check, yes.
Okay, let's go through the 3 criteria and come up with our kind of findings or our facts, and then we will do an overall motion on the whole kit and caboodle. Okay, so for the first one, unnecessary hardship, we technically went both ways. For part A, some of the notations that were indicated, the requirements does not prevent them from using the property for a permitted purpose. There can be something built on there, just not something that they want. And the lot is buildable without a variance. So those were the kind of thoughts towards that. Anybody want to rehash those? Or if you're comfortable with those, I'll just take what I've restated that you guys noted as being your findings, okay? For part B, it was noted that it would be burdensome to fit a home on the lot. That was really the only feedback that I got on that one. Is there any other input that you guys can offer as to your thoughts on burdensome?
It's limited. It's limited.
Yeah.
It's limited.
Limited in size.
Yes.
Okay, so the lot is limited in size.
And also design.
Okay, making design difficult or,
Unconventional.
Not great.
that's a good term. Okay. Are you guys satisfied with that? Number 2, the unique property limitations. We had a note that yes, the motion was yes, there were unique property limitations, so go ahead and give me your indications on that.
Setback from the creek. with some additions. Steep slope in the backyard. Limitation. Size of the lot, size and shape of the lot would be a limitation.
Okay. Number 3, no harm to the public interest. The vote on the motion was, it does harm the public interest. There wasn't a lot of discussion on this one, but if you'd like to go to my staff report, it's got a notations on ordinance intent and purpose, that type of thing. But I'm gonna need some findings of fact for this motion.
Being so close to the so-called creek. There's a limitation. Inside the 75, okay. Setback allowed mitigations. Limitation.
I guess I'm not sure exactly how to phrase that with,
If you built the house within the 75-foot area, without the mitigation.
okay.
think the intent of the 75 foot back is to prevent runoff. Because of that steep slope that you have there, there's a possibility of getting runoff. We need to-
So the reasons for the shoreline setback would be, and I think I used the term diminished. The reasons for the setback under the ordinance would be diminished by granting the variance.
Anybody else?
Okay,
Gotta proceed to the last.
yeah, the overall motion on the whole variance.
Seeking the variance demonstrated that each of these three standards has been satisfied in this case. No.
The answer is no, not all three criteria are met.
And just one of them has to be no. To be
Correct. You have to meet all three criteria in order for it to be granted. Michelle, I'm sorry, was that a motion?
Yeah.
Okay.
second. Second. All in favor, say aye.
Can we take a roll call, please?
Art?
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Gary?
Yes.
Jill? Jack, yes.
Okay, so. The motion was for no, but we voted yes, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Well,
And maybe I can explain it a different way. The first criteria has two different parts. You technically only have to meet one of them. The board kind of uniquely had basically said that you don't meet the unnecessary hardship criteria under part A, but then under part B, where we're talking about it being unnecessarily burdensome, the board thought that they did meet that criteria. So
I
outside of
talking
the
about the decision motion.
decision, so the vote was that they do not meet all three criteria.
Yes.
You voted yes
Okay. Just-
to agree with the motion.
Okay. Motion carried. Thank you.
I think we are good to go with that one.
Here, public meeting. Here, a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That, I will call the second public hearing. This hearing is to take testimony regarding the application of Lembcke Lake. We need to see the park for the Southwest half and southeast corner. One town gate. Line along the county road. Right now, I have my ones, my niece, and my back county. We, one, was the one that would read that, yeah. For addition to grant a variance to constructing a fence within the regards requires shared shoreline setback. Within, and exceeded the maximum height allowance within the highway setback for rural, commercial, I don't know. Approximately 3.14 acres. The secretary, please read some names, first and one by the hearing.
Jeff Barlow, Fair, Wanda Hilton, Town Clerk, Jim Peglow, Town Supervisor, Todd Lembcke, applicant, Lembcke Family LLC, owner, Department of Natural Resources, Dale Rezabeck, Department of Natural Resources, Brian Cunningham, U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Kyle Zabum, Opeka County Highway Department, Casey Beiersdorf, Opeka County Corporation Council, Robert A. and Peggy L. Evan Revocable Trust, Vicky Golding, Kevin F. and Michelle L. Guyot, Murphy Harnack, Brian C. Harrow, David E. Hussett, Little Hope Property LLC, Bruce E. and Carolyn E. Nemeth, James and Hope Purcells, Gertrude H. Pickett Revocable Trust, Richard Potter, Williams Twankey et al., Amy N. Town, Opeka County, Nelson Park, Little Hope, and Wendy B. Wilson et al.
Does anyone know anybody with this property? Not. Fletcher?
The variance is approved. Any privilege must be exercised within 6 months of the date of this decision by obtaining the necessary building, zoning, and other permits required for the proposed construction. This construction must be completed within 2 years of the date of issuance of the permit.
The board has conducted an on-site inspection of the property. The board will not hear the application of the Lembcke Family LLC. Well, the representatives of the application, please. Sworn in testimony.
Stand.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no for these.
Give your legs a rest.
Okay,
Swear to tell the truth, so nothing but the truth.
yes,
See.
okay.
What is the nature of your request?
Put up a fence
Why?
for safety.
You want to, you have your form in front of you that you fill out?
Yes,
I asked you to give the 3 questions for us. Put it in the record. One, unnecessary hardship.
okay. If the fence isn't put up, visitors may get hurt. We want to ensure their safety. If a fence isn't allowed, who would be the liable party for the safety of visitors? Or explain how they're conforming with applicable restrictions and something like that.
You need.
But- Let's read the answers.
Yes.
Okay,
You need physical.
by putting up the fence, it will ensure the safety of our visitors.
No harm to the public interest.
I don't believe so. Would help them.
Is there any further testimony in favor of this applicant? Wish to speak? Wish to speak?
Same thing. Just a fence that'll protect everybody.
I
We
have
do
to
have
say-
pictures of people like kind of going down there, so it's like, hey, we don't want to.
That's a good idea. I have to say this 3 times.
Okay.
Is there any further testimony in favor of this application? Is there any further testimony in favor of this application? Is there any testimony in opposition to this application? Is there any testimony in opposition to this application? Is there any testimony in opposition to this application? Is there any additional testimony regarding this application? Is there any additional testimony regarding the application? Is there any additional testimony regarding this application? Other than the letter?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I have an email from a Diane Forza dated Monday, July 24th, 2023. It was sent to the town and then the town forwarded it on to us for our response. It says, hello all. So I'm guessing Dayton doesn't have a fencing ordinance. I could not find any variance requests described below on any agendas or minutes for either board or plan commission. The July 20th, 2023 Wapaka Post included a notice of public hearing on August 3rd, 2023 at 9:45 a.m. for Lembcke Family LLC's property at N2190 County Road K, number 03-01-43-10, and then parentheses, it says Red Mill. Quote, for a petition for a grant of variance to construct a fence within the required shoreline setback and which will exceed the maximum height allowed within the highway setback in the rural commercial general RCG district. And one concern should be whether this variant fence will impede views by vehicular/bicycle/pedestrian traffic on K/Crystal Road. Traffic safety concerns at that intersection have been discussed at Dayton board meetings in the past. Will someone from town of Dayton be asking the Board of Adjustment of Lembcke County to answer that question or others? Thanks, Diane, signed Diane Forza, and 2279 Country Lane, Wapaka, Wisconsin, 54981. To that email, Candace Bauer then responded, says, good morning, the Lembcke variance request will be going in front of the county's Board of Adjustment next Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. The full packets will be given to the board members. They'll be getting uploaded to the county's website. That will include the applicant's application, including a survey showing the proposed location of the fence. Use this link to view the packet once it's uploaded, and then there's a link to where the packet was uploaded. The zoning ordinance does have some fence standards. When within the highway setback areas, a fence is to be less than 4 feet in height. One part of the variance request is to exceed this height limitation and go up to 8 feet tall. The other part of the variance request is to deal with the shoreline setback, which is 75 feet for structures. The fence is proposed within the setback requirement. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. Also, please contact me if Diane would like her email read into the record during the hearing. Respectfully, Candace Bauer, Land Use Code Enforcement Specialist, Packard County Planning and Zoning.
You wish to rebut?
Before they do that, I'd like to give my staff report if I could, Chairman. It's all right. So as we've heard, the request is for an 8-foot tall fence within the required shoreline setback, as well as to exceed the maximum height allowed within the highway setback. And I'm sorry, did I just misspeak? I think I said highway twice. I meant to say within the required shoreline setback, and which exceeds the maximum height allowed in a highway setback. The property is zoned rural commercial general. It is bounded by agriculture and woodland transition zone properties to the north, east, and south, and rural residential zone properties across Crystal Road and County Road K. The property shares a small boundary with a parcel zoned public recreation and forestry, which is Nelson Park to the north. Adjacent uses are primarily residential in nature. The area of the proposed fence is located between the Red Mill, the Crystal River, and the County Road K right-of-way. A fence is considered a structure and therefore must meet the required 75-foot shoreline setback. The fence is proposed to be as close as 21.5 feet from the ordinary high water mark of the Crystal River. A fence within a highway setback must be less than 4 feet in height. The level 2 highway setbacks for County Road K are 75 feet from the highway center line or 42 feet from the right-of-way, whichever is greater. The level 3 highway setbacks for Crystal Road are 63 feet from the center of the traveled path or 30 feet from the right-of-way, whichever is greater. The proposed fence is 8 feet tall, but entirely within the highway setbacks, as close as 0 feet to the right-of-way and 33 feet to the road center. A pre-existing non-conforming split rail type fence was removed from the property several years ago. It is not allowed to be replaced by the proposed fence due to time limitations on removal and new ordinance requirements. I did include kind of a picture. This is just from Google Street View, so I do apologize. But you can see that there is a split rail fence that is kind of in front of that. And I think we wanted to ask Mr. Lembcke if he recalled whether this split rail fence, how long that, if it was the same kind of general length as what you're proposing, or are you familiar with what that looked like? This was back in 2009 when this photo was taken.
Actually, it went further over to the park.
Okay,
So probably if we're looking at 40 feet, that was probably more like 100 or 120 feet. Because we're kind of rounded around there.
thank you. So the applicable ordinance sections that we're going to be looking at today, chapter 32, that is our shoreline protection ordinance, section 6.1. That is what refers to as the 75-foot shoreline setback for all structures. I had kind of mentioned this on site earlier. Fences did get added to the definition of a structure more recently. Definitely within the last, I think, 10 years or so. That's why you might see other fences closer to the water, but new ones are now required to meet the 75-foot shoreline setback. Chapter 34, our zoning ordinance, that is where we get into the general fence standards and related to the highway setback. So section 2.8, parent 5, parent C, setback exemptions actually lists fence as setback exempt. However, those fences located within the highway setback must be less than 4 feet in height. So we were looking at the survey and the lot line markers, and the question came up, okay, so it's proposed to go all the way to the right of way. And yes, the fence is proposed to go all the way to the right of way because they can have a fence there. We don't have lot line setbacks. Really what we're looking at here is a height limitation. It's not a setback issue. It's a height limitation on what type of fence can be there. Section 2.7 specifies which roads are what levels, which just refers you into further the setback section. So that gets us into, well, what is the highway setback that's applicable? What is this area where we have to have a reduced height fence? A level 2 highway, that's going to be your highway K. I had already mentioned 75 feet from the marked center line, 42 feet from the right of way. The level 3 highway being Crystal Road, that's going to be 63 feet from the center of the traveled path, 30 feet from the right of way. Then we go to the section of the ordinance that refers to the board's review and decision criteria. So again, we've got the 3 main criteria: unnecessary hardship, unique property limitations, and protection of the public interest. This time I would like to draw the attention to number 8. The Board of Adjustment, in fulfilling its duties, may modify, alter, or place conditions on any application. So there is a little bit of flexibility there when it comes to your guys's potential approval. The first criteria, the unnecessary hardship criteria, that is met for an area variance when complying with the standards of the ordinance would unreasonably prevent the landowner from using their property for a permitted purpose, or would be unnecessarily burdensome. A hardship may not be self-created, and economic or financial hardship is not justification for granting a variance. So it was noted that the fence is going to be put up for safety purposes. In the county's opinion, the applicant refers to the safety and liability as the reason of the fence. However, complying with the shoreline setback or height limitations for a fence does not unreasonably prevent the applicant from continuing to use the property for a permitted purpose. It's our opinion that economic or financial hardship due to liability issues is not justification for granting the variance. The second part, unique property limitations. Many properties in the area and along the Crystal River have similar physical attributes such as road frontage and water frontage, wetlands and steep slope. However, the water wheel infrastructure, which is currently just a void space, we had looked at that today, that is unique. In addition, this part of the property does have a negative building envelope. So we talked about that as well, that the shoreline setback pushes you far enough in on the roadway. Basically, there's on this portion of the property, not a building envelope. Number 3, no harm to public interest. So it mentions that it will draw more people to the Red Mill and to the community. We've got to go to the purpose and intent of the zoning ordinances. So and the shoreline ordinance to fix reasonable standards to which buildings and structures shall conform. Allowing a fence at the requested 8-foot height does conflict with the ordinance standards for new construction and does encourage structures within the highway setback requirements. A fence that complies with the ordinance standards could still provide a safety barrier to the water wheel location. The purpose of the shoreline protection ordinance is to promote the health, safety, and welfare of the public, as well as to protect the public trust in navigable waters. So again, in order to do this, the ordinance was established to control building sites, placement of structures, land uses, those types of things, preserve shoreline vegetation, natural scenic beauty through preventing shoreline encroachment of structures. The shoreline setback is in place to promote and support these purposes of the ordinance. Allowing a construction of a fence encourages encroachment of structures within the shoreline setback area and detracts from natural scenic beauty. Allowing the replacement of a similar type fence to that which was previously on the property would not be nearly as intrusive as the proposed fence, especially towards the natural scenic beauty in comparison to, so split rail compared to an 8-foot tall fence. And maybe we should ask clarification as well, what type or style of fence that certainly could be a factor in things. The proposed fence poses a harm to public interest, and that a grant of variance for a taller fence would result in an undermining of the purposes of the ordinance by reducing dimensional standards intended to support the purposes. Staff recommendation is denial. Again, all 3 criteria are needing to be met. So even though we might meet a couple of the criteria, that is at least staff's opinion, that all 3 of them are not met.
Oh. Everybody, anything she said?
What kind of fence are you thinking?
We can show you the different options. We chose 8 foot, but 6 foot would work too. You know, something on this lines that you can still see through.
Or like this, one of these.
Yeah,
Kind of the
one of
same.
those two. Something that you can still see through, but his vertical, you know,
To stop
to stop
people.
people from climbing over, because we have a 4-foot fence now.
This is.
On the other side, people climb over that all the time.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, I have pictures
So-
of people down there on the foundation. And if you have the water wheel running with water coming off, I think little kids are gonna be reaching in there, trying to touch the water. Adults are down on the foundation right now. They go down there and climb on it. So we're trying to stop them from doing that.
Do you have any
That's all we're trying to
signage there now or anything? I didn't know.
No, we have no signage. I guess we've been,
Rather not.
well, I don't know what to put there because we have signage and nobody reads anything anyways of the signs we have now. But yeah, we've been admonished many times, even without the water wheel, not having a fence there. So we didn't know what we could do with the fence, whether, what size or whatever. I mean, we're open to ideas, but something has to be done with the fence or
stop
we're gonna have
people.
issues, because we have so many issues now. All you have to do is come down and just watch for a day. We didn't realize, you know, we're contractors, heating contractors, not retailers. So when we got into this, we didn't realize what the public does with stuff. That's all. So it's interesting how much stuff does get broken and used and things like that. So that's our concern.
We want
know,
people
just
to enjoy the water
want-
wheel, but
right.
not go over into it and not have anybody get hurt. Cause there's
Yeah.
little kids, old people, all kinds of people. And we just want them safe, be able to enjoy the wheel once it's up and.
And a higher
Good
fence
reason.
could be put in right by the well, maybe a 6 or 8 foot high.
Front.
And then maybe that first, I think it's 16 feet. And then maybe you could go down to a lower fence at that point. You'd still be able to see through and, you know, and because actually, in my opinion, to put a fence up really takes away from the wheel then too. But it truly is a safety thing after you watch it for a while of just all the people that hover around that area throughout the day, so.
Any question the word was asked?
You know how long that fence was taking them? Just out of curiosity.
I'm sorry. Were you
No,
asking?
either anyone, I
User-
was
and
just
you're gonna have
curious.
Probably a more accurate notation. We do have a photo on file that it was gone as long ago as November of 2019. I think I missed that date.
Yeah, I
You
think it was
recall?
2020.
2020, thank you. I think it
At
was
least we were able to find a picture. of
November
that, but we don't really
19th.
know. Maybe it would have been earlier than that. Do you have a better understanding?
I think it was about that time because we had to remove the wheel because it was ready to roll into the river. So there was a lot of garbage that was there with the fence. You know, so that's probably about right.
Okay.
Yeah,
So the fence was taken down when you moved the old well, or
it was pretty rotted.
It was,
Yeah, it was
Would
really,
need to be
everything was just
replaced, yeah.
falling into the whole thing there. Of the wheel, so.
As far as they can go over is the property.
correct. Yes, once we hit that one corner where it meets the right of way, they aren't able to place anything in that. That'll be the county highways jurisdiction.
We gotta post the highway department about continuing the fence. It's pretty high. Pretty deep ditch.
I guess I'm just curious, what is your insurance company or said about liability to that? Without
They
having
haven't
it-
said anything at this point because we have not said anything.
Ah.
So,
Until there's a claim.
right, we try to watch out the window and guide people away, but we have not, yeah, we have not. We have not mentioned anything.
So when you operate the water, where's the water gonna come
From the river,
from? You pump it out, pump it out.
yeah. Just a little 1-inch pipe is all it takes to turn them now, so it doesn't take really any water flow. It's all steel well balanced, so.
Any other questions the board wishes to ask?
Nothing to add to what's been said, but my only comment to it is that there is a tremendous opportunity for the little rugrats that come to this is for ice cream cones and watch wheels go around to gang up on that corner over there. And the next thing you know, somebody's going down into the river bank. And remember how long ago that the river was changed in there because of the dam and the rest of it. So there was a lot of change that was done. The highway did some modification and everything else. But the problem still remains where it is. And it's that opening between the road and building. And well, actually, these people trying to eliminate problem. And the county should be looking at it too. As the sane and correct thing to be doing is to get a fence in there that's agreeable to everybody involved as to what should look like and how, as far as the height is concerned, that key is kind of high. That you're not running a prison in there for runaways or something, so that could be reduced now and get it to a level that's acceptable. As far as the rest of it, start looking at what's wrong with the lot and everything else. It's gonna stay there. Mill has been there for years and years and years. And as I remember, you could never get down inside that wheel years ago, when it was still operational. It was in there, it goes back, and that goes back a long time. And even the parking out front is different today than what it was then. So when the mill was there, the mill's been there a long, long time. So what do? You say, because it's been there, you create a liability for everybody involved and make it unsafe and just ignore it. And wind up with a situation that's, I think it's all size. That's it. As I'm concerned, I want to know if it's not going to be a prison fence and it's not going to be 8 feet high and bring it down into something that's reasonably done and see through. And I didn't honestly create park in the back. That leaves an open spot from there for people to hightail it down the backside. They'll need to get down alongside the wheel. It's just a no, I think it's a no-brain situation. Get a fence that's acceptable. People can see through. View down into the park, that's another issue too. But yeah, make it visible. So that's what we're talking about. Make it a person, don't make it a person fence. Make it look agreeable and admittedly, the old wooden fence that was in there and that type of thing was something different. When that was first built, parents held on to their kids.
Right.
So stay away from there and took them by the hand. Today, they tell the kid go out. So that's a whole different. There, deal with it. I have no problem with the fence. It's some requirement.
Yeah.
It's reasonable that everybody can work.
Any other questions or Comments from the board?
Yeah, I got a comment, I guess. I agree with Jack. We need a fence. And something that you can see through, okay, and I think the examples that you gave seem adequate to me, or something that matches the decor of the rest of the mill, right? So, and I'm just kind of, I think of a 4-foot fence, and I'm 5.5 feet tall. So 6 foot would be about this tall, and a 4 foot would be right here. Actually, I think doesn't need to be 8, but 6 would be, I think 6 would be a happy medium for this, if that's something we could accomplish with our variance. And something that could see through, because then, I mean, the individual that sent the letter in, I mean, you could see beyond, you know, I was thinking at first a fence that was a boarded fence and you couldn't see through. Well, you don't want that either, because
No.
you're running a business,
I
right?
want to see it.
You want to see it, you want to be able to have people see that, but I think a 6 foot would be a very, you know, accommodating, and I think would match right in there with whatever else you're doing at that point, so
You're gonna have the iron close together so the little ones can't get through it.
I'm sure there's code for that, I
Right,
would
there's-
guess. I-
We've worked with a fence company before, and this is the same one out of Stevens Point. So yeah, it's the code that kids can't get through. I believe they narrowed those up from a few years ago even.
Now, my only question then is, there's still a gap between where that guardrail comes out and where your fence would start. That would still be open, I think. Is that, am I reading that correctly?
Well, there's like a little trail.
Well,
People
you've
walk
got to see,
behind
People
there all
walk
the
to
time.
the park back. and
people
forth all
walk
the time.
down there?
No, they don't walk down by the wheel. They walk between the
No.
mill and down to the park. So they're not on the road. They're actually behind the rail. Is how they walk to get back and forth, and that's a constant thing. So they're actually not in traffic. They're behind the guardrail, but they
Right.
walk back. You can
Yeah,
see
but
where there's a
I'm
trail. to walk
talking when
there.
we were out there, there was a stake in the ground, which I think was the right away,
Correct.
right? So from that right away stake to the guardrail
There is a
is,
space,
would still be open.
correct.
Okay, and there's nothing you can do about that, but I mean, it would still be somewhat of a hazard, but then obviously your liability isn't with that, I don't think, but
Well, the other thought is to see if we can plant something in there that will maybe. grow
there's a
little
good idea.
Maybe something thorny.
Yep.
That would grow so high, but not too high, like
Sure,
2-3
sure, we can get you something invasive that we can
Yes.
see.
Not too bad. I don't want it all over.
Okay,
That's fine.
but that's done.
Any other comments? Now the board will now deliberate, decide this case. Questions, necessary hardship? For the motion. Being in compliance for this. Strict letter of the ordinance provisions. Question, I'm reasonable. Prevent. Excuse me, I have a question, I'm reasonably preventing water from using the property for their use. Does prevent. The motion. Being in compliance will. Strict letter of the ordinance provisions. The question will unreasonably prevent water using the property from permitted use.
There a second?
Here, a second.
Second.
Art. Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Gary,
Yeah.
Michelle.
Yes.
Jack is.
Agree, you want to do the second motion?
I would move under physical property limitations that. uh, Yes, there are. I would make a motion, yes, it would prevent compliance with the ordinance. Am I doing that right?
There are property.
It does have unique properties, so yes, I move for yes on that.
I'll second it.
where do we put in the height of the fence in our motions? Is that at the end?
You can place conditions at the end.
Good, thank
Mhm.
you. We got a roll call.
Roll call, Jack. Roll call.
Art,
Yes.
Dave? Yeah. Gary,
Yes.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jack, yes.
Bill.
I say yes, it does grant, granting a variance. No, wait, I take that back. Does the granting of the variance result in harm to the public interest? No, I think that it would actually help the public interest because it's helping the public. So I would
Safer.
say yes.
So it's
So
not,
I would say no. Is my.
second that.
Art,
Yes.
Dave?
Yes.
Gary,
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yes.
Jack, yeah.
Okay. Before we go through each one, I think the last one was pretty good. I've got a note here to specify that it is not a harm to public interest because it will actually help the public interest in keeping the public safe.
Yeah.
The second one, there are unique property limitations. Do we want to expand on that to talk about something particular?
How would be the wheel? Wheel.
Safety hazard, I mean.
There was a fence previously there.
And
Steep slope.
Okay,
I hope that's in the first one.
slope, water wheel location, safety hazards, steep slope. I'm sorry, Art, you had said something at the last bit.
Just that there's a safety hazard of a turning wheel.
Okay. All right, and then the first one, prevents, yes, it does prevent the property owner from using the property for a permitted purpose. Care to expand on that at all, or?
See, there was a fence there. It's
There,
just
oh, that's
rotted.
what I was missing.
It's rotted, so it was just basically maintaining.
Okay, do we want to put that under the unique property limitations one, or?
I'm fine wherever it goes. Works.
Okay. Okay, so then we have the three different criteria that we've got motions and approval on. Do we want to discuss possible conditions and then make a motion so that the motion is for all of it, including the conditions?
I would make a motion to grant the variance.
I think we gotta do conditions first.
Well,
Conditions would be height.
I'm gonna include that in my motion, okay? And allow the variance to be a 6-foot fence. That, how do we say we want it to be a see-through transparent? What's the term I want to
Visual.
use?
Opaqueness
Opaque
is
would be-
usually,
No, I'm thinking something a little more visible. Opaque would be,
right, so sometimes an ordinance will say 50% opaque or no more than.
what kind of fence, what is that called? That kind of fence, is it a
I don't know what they really call it. It's,
stake fence?
the brand is Montage Plus by Ameristar, but it's just a, I don't know what they categorize it here.
I mean, that's the type of fence that you want to see. And we make a copy of that for the record and
Right,
reference.
and
the
then
type.
something,
You guys can have.
something of that or similar to what? I guess something that was like that or similar to. what
Sure,
you
similar in
showed us.
style,
Yes,
same or similar in style as attached.
as attached. There you go.
Give me just a minute here.
I guess now that I think about it, so I don't know how technical. Well, I mean, we want it to be a metal fence, right? Not plastic, probably not wood. You know
The
what I mean?
painted metal fence, yes.
Metal fence, so it should be a metal fence similar to the pictures given, I think, if that's okay, that sound good? And 6
Yeah,
foot.
it's not a composite or anything. Yeah, you can have
Up
that.
to 6 feet.
We got more copies.
Okay, so just to recap, Gary's motion is to grant the variance with modifications. And we can, I suppose we can either modify the request or we can place conditions. But if we're gonna say grant the variance, I feel like we should modify to allow a 6 foot tall metal fence and of the style presented at the hearing.
I like that.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. All those in favor, say aye.
Roll call, please.
Yes.
Dave,
Yes.
Karen,
Yes,
Jill,
Yes.
Jackie.
so do we still need to do this decision thing or did what I did?
What you did works for that. Mhm,
That's a little cleaner, don't you think?
yes, good job.
Thank you.
Your motion to close the public hearing. Second,
I'll second it.
all those in favor, say aye.
Thank you. We'll get you a decision out.
All right. sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for your time.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. This- oh. So old today. See you later. Meeting's over, right?
No, just that public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Discussion of possible actions.
Yes, so discuss future meetings. I have to apologize. We were due to set to have one on August 21st. Unfortunately, I miscalculated the weeks with the publications. It's super weird. It was gonna be a Monday meeting and we need to post 2 weeks prior. And either way, I screwed up. I didn't get the notifications in on time to the newspaper. Good news is, just the other day, we received another variance application. So we are going to get to wrap both of them up into one meeting rather than having 3 separate meetings. We can trim that down. We are unfortunately looking into some September due to notifications as well as Rose's availability. Rose, is it going to be easier for you to give us your available dates in September and then trim it down from there?
Can I go off the record?
Yes,
Yes. If you want me to do that now, I can do that.
I think so. If we're going to get to the point of discussing availability.
I'm gonna stay off the record while I'm talking. to
Sure.
you.
Our limitations.
I think it'll be easier for her to go first and then, and we do have 2 alternates available. Penny should be back. She didn't happen to be available today, but,
Let's see her.
yes, it will be good to have her back as well.
Right, dates that I have available at this time is the 5th, 6th, 8th, 11th through 12th, and the 18th through the 29th.
Okay. So, good news is we have a lot of availability. We do need to schedule at least 2 meetings, I think. We will have 2 variance requests and then a remand. The boathouse one that we heard last fall did go to courts and has been remanded back to the Board of Adjustment to clean up some things in the record. We'll be asking for the original board members at that time, which actually I think should be this group right here.
You're talking that boathouse that had the top on it.
Yep. Yes, so let's go ahead and if we're gonna try to squeeze in 2 of them, I think it would be best to get one kind of in that first week. Let me just calculate the dates. Do you by any chance have a calendar in front of you? When am I gonna have these notices out?
Let's see.
Well, Labor Day is the first Monday.
Yep, that's the 4th.
The 4th. I'll save you a little time. I'm gone the fourth through the eighth.
Okay,
We got rounds 5, 6, and 8.
and I think Jack did as well, so maybe we'll have to look either at the 11th or the 12th.
The other day I have problems. with the 29th.
Okay. We have enough time there, Becky?
Yeah, we won't need notice out for a week or two.
Okay, so the 11th or the 12th will work. Do you guys have a preference on which day? Whatever will work best. Okay, so we'll definitely star those 2 dates. I'm not gonna run them back to back though, so let's look at the last. You will have to be there for the second meeting. We're gonna put the variances first because I've had
Okay,
one of
so
the
I have to do
applications for a while, unless we need you.
Okay, yep.
But then let's look at the last 2 weeks. Does anybody have any major conflicts with the last 2 weeks in September? You said the 29th. So we'll want to avoid that day.
26 through 29, I'm gone.
Okay. And so we are gonna want to squeeze it in then that 18th to the 22nd. We need you for the remand hearing.
Okay. Great. I'm sick that day, whatever you pick.
Oh, I wish we were all sick that day.
So how does it
did that
remand,
work?
or while we're still on the record? Are we on the
Well,
record? How
yeah,
does a remand? work?
We've seen a remand before, more or less, I think due to the reasons for the remand, we're just gonna redo it.
Redo it.
Yeah, more or less. So we're gonna go through the whole kit and caboodle again.
Does the judge give us some guidance as to where we were bad or good, or did you just say,
Why does it
take
come
it
back?
back? Huh?
Yeah, that'll kind of come up in conversation. Yeah.
All right.
And we will have our attorney available, or your guys' attorney, we'll have the board attorney available as well. Crystal Bieber. Any other conflicts for that 18th to the 22nd week? Do we have any committee dates picked yet that are gonna conflict with that? No. Okay,
22nd, oh, that's August.
I don't remember.
That's fine.
the date off the top of my head.
okay. All right, well then let us take a closer look at our calendar back in the office. We don't want to 18th to the 22nd. We're definitely gonna schedule something on the 11th or the 12th. And then either, and then sometime the week of the 18th to the 22nd, probably avoid Friday. I know there's a lot of out of office folks out of the office. That makes it difficult for office coverage, and folks like to go on vacations and such, so. We'll let you know. I'll get something out to you guys as soon as I can, but definitely plan on the 11th or the 12th, and then something the week of the 18th. Okay. Very good. And then Art, we have been meaning to do the policies and procedures.
Yes.
Now that Penny is hopefully going to be available, she was the one who did have quite a bit of input that she wanted to offer for that. Would you like to schedule a separate meeting for something like that? Is it something maybe that we push off a little bit and tackle during, not the busy time for you guys, or would you like to get that taken care of?
Works.
Well, knowing Penny, it will take some time. I mean, you mean, so a third date? is what we're-
We'd likely be looking at a third date. We saw how long 2 variance requests took us today. And the remand hearing is going to take us several hours as well. So I think in order to not burn you guys out, we'd be looking at a third date. We could always wait to see if there are other variance requests
Sure.
and tack it on to one that maybe only has one. Hold off on that for now.
A year.
Sounds good.
Okay. Okay, will do. Anything else?
Well, I just have something, and I don't know. It seems to me we get confused on these motions. Is there a way we can simplify what we do? And, we're voting yes for a no and no for a yes, and it's very confusing to me. And then the last question
Is the
seems a
opposite.
little
It is.
counterintuitive. And I don't think we look real crisp in front of the public when we do this.
I will tell you that how things are worded, generally will come from either state
Okay,
statute
so it
or,
is a statute.
or guidance that we've gotten.
Okay.
So
So
can-
can we frame our motions better so we know how to frame our motions so that it makes it easier, I guess?
yeah,
So if we could think about that, or
Mhm.
you guys know where I'm coming from, here,
Mhm.
right? I mean, I even got confused when I made a motion about my own motion,
I'll see if there are any other examples out there.
Guidelines, yeah,
Yep.
that'd be great. And that's why I did what I did at the end. I just said, used accept or reject, at least we know what's there, right? Based on
Yes.
what we did.
And we are
Rather-
gonna have an attorney present at the next
Oh,
one,
there you
so
go.
for the remand, so there will be an attorney representing the board at that, so they'd be able to walk you through that as well.
Got it. And they'll steer us in the right direction.
Yeah, for the ones that she's present for, but otherwise, yes, I mean, we can take a look at things if there's a way that we
Okay,
can.
I-
Like Candace is saying, a lot of this is handed to us,
I get it.
so it's
I-
just kind of,
You know, and then the last one, what were the amendment or whatever, that was the person that applied, right? In the last one we had, I can't remember what that is. When we did the appeal, that was kind of confusing there too.
Without question.
I would have walked away being them going, what did they do? I mean,
Because we were dealing with what an attorney's argument. was there as
exactly.
well, and it was
And
kinda
then
like
it's,
throwing
then
spaghetti
everything
against
means
the
the
wall.
opposite of what you think.
Right. So we struggled with that.
Good enough, okay.
We're not the only ones.
Well, I just. Good points. I don't know how we look on tape. I know these are taped, so. Okay.
We just gotta remember we are citizens.
Well. Okay, I would move to adjourn then if we don't have anything else.
Second? Second. All those in favor say aye.
Thank you very much.